The micrograph 1916. The micrograph was followed by the semicrograph, a stopwatch measuring time to 1/50th of a second. The semicrosplit version could also measure two events simultaneously thanks to its flyback hand. Thanks to these patented stopwatches, Heuer became the official timekeeper of several editions of the Olympic Games and other sport events. In particular, the Heuer split-second pocket chronographs were selected as official stopwatches used at the Olympic Games on 3 consecutive occasions: Antwerp in 1920, Paris in 1924, and Amsterdam in 1928. The connections to the worlds of sport and motor racing cars significantly contributed to the growing success of Heuer in the 1920 decade. Fully realizing the importance of the brand, in these years, Heuer extended the use of the famous shield logo to the dials of their timepieces that, before this change, were generally sold without any indication of the manufacturer. The 1930s were tougher years due to the impact of the so-called Great Depression that followed the stock market crash in 1929. While not at the level of the 1920s, production continued despite a negative impact on exports. In 1933, Heuer designed the successful Autobia, a new dash counter for racing cars, boats and aircraft. Its name, a contraction of automobile and aviation, will be later used also for a popular wrist chronograph launched in the 1960s. In these years, Heuer also started producing chronographs especially designed for pilots, in 1-button and 2-button versions. Instead of being converted pocket watches, these models, often referred to as Flieger, were designed from scratch as wristwatches. Nonetheless, some links with converted pocket watches were still evident, like the lugs welded to the case using a solid bar rather than the handier spring bars that would have appeared in few years. Heuer Advertising 1936. Some of these chronograph models will later be source of inspiration for popular models released several decades later, like the Targa Florio and the Monza. This pilot chronograph will be the inspiration for the Targa Florio model. Another Heuer chronographs from the 1930s. As Heuer fans will notice, its case shape served as the inspiration for the Monza model launched in 2000. In 1934, with the world economy slowly recovering from the crisis started 5 years before, Heuer looked for further expansion, participating for the first time to the 1934 edition of the Basel Watchmaking Fair.